Hi guys, I'm Jeff, also known as Dinar Investor. We have a lot of newbies, so we're gonna kind of go from a little bit of the beginning on a generic level and then get into detail more about where we're at right now. Here's where we're at. So we do things different than the other channels and forums do. Okay, we don't sit here and keep telling you it's gonna happen anytime. We don't tell you it's gonna happen soon. We'll give you dates, okay? But we don't tell you it's going to happen soon, anytime, or all of that, okay? We use facts to walk you to the time periods that we share with you, okay? That's what makes us different. We tear into facts at a very deep level to get you the information, and we see things at a much deeper level that nobody else does, and we're going to prove that to you. Let's get going on this. Okay, this whole video is my opinion and should not be used for financial advice. Let's get that garbage out of the way. Okay, here we go. So, as you guys saw, through the whole first half of the year, going from kind of January through June, okay, or January, yeah, through the end of June, what you saw was Iraq was setting the stage for the revaluation more on a generic level. Some of the key things they put in place were reconstruction agreements, trade agreements with other countries, entities, those types of things, okay? Then as July started, okay, they still continued to set the stage in July, but on a different level. See, prior to July, it was more generic, not things super specific, pinpointed to what's needed, such as a new rate change. Okay, it was more generic. All right, as we got into July, they shifted gears on setting that stage, and they started going into items that very specifically need the rate. Okay, since July started, you guys did not start seeing a boatload of articles talking about Article 140 or the oil and gas law again until July started. Okay, so that's what I want to touch on with you. Now, lately you've seen a lot of good Article 140 news articles. Saw a good one this morning we shared with you. That article, I hope you guys paid close attention to it. It even mentioned that they have a set start date for it. There's no way in hell they're going to tell you that, but they have a set start date. Now, the next article I'm going to share with you is a very detailed article with you about the HCL oil and gas law. Now, I want to stress something to you. Roughly within the last week, the Kurds had come up to Baghdad to meet and have big meetings. Let's look at that by itself. That move is very revealing. Okay, here's one thing I've stressed to you guys, is that the HCL and Article 140 cannot be implemented or amended and added in Constitution because they're dependent on the rate change. So until that rate changes, they're not going to be added to the Constitution. It's that simple. Okay, so using that as a gauge, that would tell you that that the Kurds see both of those items, Article 140 and the oil and gas law. A lot of those have to do with the Kurds and resolving differences with the Kurds and being in agreement with the Kurds. So, but now that I just told you that those are all dependent on the rate change, that would suggest to you that the Kurds would be coming to Baghdad to meet with Baghdad or the Baghdad government at the end. Okay, that's what I wanted to stress to you, at the end. Now, so roughly within the past week, Kurdistan, the new Kurdistan government, just came up to Baghdad and met with them, okay, to resolve their differences. Guys, remember I told you these steps would not happen until the end. That's what I'm stressing to you. Well, if you look at everything happening right now, you're seeing a lot of articles about Article 140, and now this new article I'm about to share with you, okay, it strongly shows you, and what it reveals within the article is that Kurdistan came up to Baghdad to resolve their differences, to prepare the oil and gas law to get it ready for implementation. But again, it's dependent on the rate change. Guys, to me, this information is very revealing and strongly indicates and shows to you that we are at the end. Now, one thing I want to stress to you, and this part's simply my opinion, nothing more. I've seen through time that in articles or in the news when Iraq talks about doing stuff, many times it does take them approximately 90 days to get things done that they talk about within the news, okay? So if it takes them about 90 days to get things done, that's assuming that they are going to even get it done, okay? They didn't start heavily talking about the HCL and Article 140 until roughly the beginning of July. Add 90 days, guys, It walks you right into September. That's the time frame we've kind of targeted for you and put a focus on for you, okay? So those are the details I want to share with you. But guys, the fact that all of this is coming up right now, it's all dependent on the rate change. So the only time they could even be in agreement with this and even have it ready to implement is at the very end. Look what's happening right before you guys. This is awesome. Great news. You guys have a great day. Take care.
Kurdish proposal to form a body related to federal imports. This is disrupting the legislation of oil and gas law July 30, 2019 1717. Baghdad Today. Special. The deputy of the Change Bloc in the House of Representatives, Kawa Mohammed, on Tuesday, to establish a control of the distribution of federal imports. While attributed the lack of legislation of the law of oil and gas to the differences of visions in the interpretation of some articles of the Constitution, the lack of approval of the law of oil and gas is one of the factors not to resolve the outstanding oil problems between the Kurdistan region and the federal government so far, Mohammed said in an exclusive interview, Baghdad Today. He explained that the reason for not enacting this law is the existence of different interpretations of my articles, 111 and 112, of the Constitution, which talk about the ownership of oil and gas and the distribution of powers to manage the oil fields. He called on Mohammed to establish a monitoring body for the distribution of federal imports also, which was legislated its law in the previous session of the House of Representatives, in order to achieve justice in the distribution of federal imports between regions and provinces. A member of the Committee on Oil and Energy Parliamentary, Hassan Al-Majid, revealed earlier on Tuesday the continued refusal of the Kurdish parties to enact the law of oil and gas. Al-Majid told Baghdad Today that the efforts to legislate the law of oil and gas, which has been disabled for 11 years, collide Kurdish rejection, noting that the legislation of the law will eliminate all outstanding differences between Baghdad and Erbil. He added that the legislation of the law will be sufficient to regulate the relationship between the oil-producing provinces and the federal government, pointing out that the lack of legislation due to a number of political reasons. Perhaps the most prominent Kurdish rejection, which wants to keep the existing agreements. Majid said that joint committees and ongoing dialogues between the region and the center cannot be resolved differences and outstanding issues without legislation of the law. Earlier, the Committee on Oil and Energy and Natural Resources in the House of Representatives on the formation of a joint committee between the federal government and the Kurdistan region to hand over 250,000 barrels of crude oil per day to Baghdad. The committee pointed out that the revenues from the quantities for the previous months will be delivered to the federal government retroactively, at a time when the capital, Baghdad. A new visit to the president of the government of the territory, Masroor Barzani, to activate agreements with the center on issues of oil and salaries and other issues. The two parties agreed to form a committee of the ministries of oil in each of the governments of the center and the region to direct the delivery of 250,000 barrels of crude oil per day in the region to the oil marketing company, SUMO. Said Amjad Al-Aqabi, a member of the committee. The province confirmed that the non-delivery of these revenues since the beginning of the year and until now caused by delaying the formation of the government there, and that those revenues will be handed over to Baghdad retroactively from January this year until now. For his part, expressed member of the committee, Sadiq Al-Sulaidi, hoped to end all outstanding problems between the center and the region on the delivery of oil to Baghdad. Al-Sulaidi said that the committee has already hosted the second deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, Dr. Bashir Haddad, and expressed optimism about reaching a final agreement on the delivery of oil and marketing through the company. SUMO, after the visit of the president of the territory, Nusirvan Barzani, and Prime Minister Masroor Barzani to Baghdad, Al-Sulaidi said that the region should take the initiative seriously to resolve this issue as soon as possible, especially if there's full conviction that the region exports more than double this quantity abroad, and that began to affect the share of Iraq, according to the OPEC agreement. The organization to reduce the export of 250,000 barrels through the southern fields of the presence of oil source through the region estimated at 580,000 barrels per day, which will affect the budget, which depends mostly on the export of oil. The chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations in the Parliament of the Territory, Rebawar Babaki, revealed the expected visit of the president of the Kurdistan Regional Government Pleased Barzani to the capital Baghdad to resolve the outstanding problems between the center and the region. After the visit by the latter after taking office on July 10,